share with you. I want us to rethink worship for a moment or two. That worship is more than some people think. In fact, I would like to believe worship is way more than what some people think. It's why we've been created. It's how and why God designed us. That if you look at Psalm 100, Psalm 150, if you look at Isaiah 43, it speaks about the reason you and I are created is to have a relationship with Almighty God and to fellowship in that worship with Him and in our relationship to Him. We also know that this is how God created us, because over the course of human history, there are those civilizations and those people groups that way off in the distance, out in the middle of nowhere, have been discovered. And interestingly enough, those people groups, although they're not part of civilization, they all have a sense of worship, and they all have a God. Now, where did that come from? If no one ever taught it, well, that God put it in their heart. That's how we are designed. That's how we are made. We're made to revere Him, to adore Him, to declare the greatness of our God. But our culture oftentimes misplaces their worship and misplaces where we are in our relationship to Him. In Romans 1:25, it says this: they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised, all men. In other words, our culture's gotten to a place where we worship created things, not the Creator. If anybody loves sports, it's me. But I need to tell you that it is one of the detriments of America, because we've come to worship sports. We've come to goodness. In my childhood, kids, I know you won't believe this, there was no way you would have soccer, football, baseball on a Sunday morning. It just never would have happened. It just wasn't the way. In fact, in Solanco, you couldn't have anything after 6 o'clock on Wednesday night way back in the day. How many of you Solanco people remember that? Wednesday night was church night, and you weren't able to do that. But we've come to a place, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the sports, but our worship has gotten misdirected. And quite honestly, if you think about it, that thing we hold in our hands so much, and all those, they've become the affection that we have, and we give it to, there's a misdirection of what we worship, and whether it's our belongings, our power, or our prestige and possessions and all those things. At times, our worship and the worship of God is put on the back burner. And we need to rethink worship, because it's way more than people think. It's way more than church. Don't get me wrong, and I'm going to say this a couple of times, that I love our time together. I love being here with you people, and I enjoy our fellowship and worshiping. But worship to God is way more than church. We'll talk about church in a little bit. But worship is an opportunity. We're supposed to abide with Jesus 24/7. The Word tells us even when we're sleeping, He knows that, and so our presence with Him. But I want to. This is the highlight of my week. Just to be honest, our time right here, what we're experiencing right now. This is the highlight of my week, in the presence of God's children. But I want to tell you, I've also had some pretty cool moments standing at the kitchen sink. See, Lisa and I are built backwards. I do the dishes, she forks manure. I think I won. But I have my music, or I just have my quiet time, and I stand there in the presence. Worship is way more than just this. How many of you, my goodness, you put me on a lawnmower and me and Jesus have such a great time together. Anybody else like that? No, man, you put these, and there's just you and the Lord. And it's worship of what we have. Worship is way more than just this moment here. And some of you, I've seen some of you, you're driving around, and man, you got the windows up. We don't want to hear you. But anyway, you have your radio cranked, and you're worshiping the Lord, and you're just having time with Him. See, that's what worship's about. But it's not even just those moments of worship in literally with His Word and prayer and seeking His face and singing praises. That's true too. But worship is what I did for 34 years as a public school teacher. I couldn't talk about Jesus there. And it's so interesting now when I get to do weddings or sadly funerals for former students' families and so forth, that I get to talk to them about Jesus. I never got to do that. But I pray that my work in some regard reflected the love of Jesus, and that work was worship. The recreation we have, it's worship. We had a dear gal in the first service as we had our praise and concern, talked about the recreation, the beauty of the earth and the flowers and the trees. And my goodness, all of that's worship as we simply reflect on that. And the recreation of being out in that. You and I, worship is way more than that. It's what he has for us to do. Romans says this, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual worship. Everything we do can be that of worship. And how crucial and important that is for us to glorify him, to thank him, that we're able to see and hear and taste and touch and smell. And again, I love this hour we have together, but worship has to go way beyond that, and we need to understand that.